Good morning and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It is currently 8 AM on a Saturday morning, which can only mean one thing. It is comp day again, and to no surprise at all, we are heading back to Sheffield. I think this is my fourth or fifth trip to Sheffield this indoor season, but that's what we have to do because that's where the championships are at. The next 8 days, if you haven't already seen it on my social media, the next 8 days are pretty manic. It's probably 7 days now. This weekend, I'm going to Sheffield for the Bucs Championships. Bucs is the British Uni and College Sport Championships, basically Britain's version of the NCAAs, but nowhere near that standard. But there will be some very, very good athletes there. Fran, who is a fresher, she is running in the 400 metres, and Will, in his second year at Bucs, going in the long jump. Last year, Will made the final in the long jump and jumped his PB 7:01 in qualifying. He's had a very, very consistent indoor season. I mean, outdoors he was consistent in the long jump, finishing up outdoor season with two 696 jumps. He started off indoors with a 695, then another 695, and even in his series, they've all been very consistent. So something is brewing. Hopefully it comes out this weekend. You can't win medals in qualifying, however. I've had athletes in the past who've PB'd and qualified first or second for the final and then bombed out, and I've had athletes who scraped through to the final and won medals. It's all about composure and handling the occasion. For Fran, she started off indoors with a PB of 58.8 in the 400. That was a PB prior to this season. She ran a 600 in December, which was pretty good. In January, she went from 58.8 down to 57.0, picking up a bronze at Northerns. She then ran two more open meets where she ran 57s before last week or the week before dropping down to 56.5. So like Will, she's going in ranked 10th. Although for Will, there's 12 spots in a final, so that puts him in that position. For Fran, she's in the 400, so there's only 6 spots. So making the semis is the first goal. Just run a good heat, get a good lane in the semis, and then we'll see where we go from there. There's not that much pressure on Fran, because again, it's not even her event. For both of them, I should say as well. Will's a combined event, he's a decathlete, and Fran is a 400 metre hurdler. So for a lot of my group, indoor season, it is just a test, it is just fun, but yeah, we still take it seriously. And then after this weekend, David's also competing today in Spain for his club in the long jump and the 60 metres to sharpen up for Spanish champs next weekend. Laura will run in the German champs next weekend. Evan will jump in the Irish champs next weekend. And Julia's running an open 400 in the USA as well. So like I said, it's going to be a busy 8 days or so, but I love it. So I'm running late as always. I'm going to jump in the car, drive down to Sheffield, and then Fran is on from 11:15, and I think Will's on from 12. So I'll try and show you as much as I can, like always, behind the scenes, and give you a little bit of an overview of how the weekend goes. We have made it to Sheffield. I've parked on the usual street, which is like less than 800 metres away from the track. You know the drill. If you've watched these videos by now, you know that I refuse to pay the £5 to park outside the track. So far this indoor season, we've saved 20 quid by parking on this street, so there we go. Anyway, I know these videos feel a little bit repetitive. It's me, gets up, gets to Greg's, drives to Sheffield, parks up, walks the track. However, at the moment, all our competitions are in Sheffield. So a lot of the time it is going to be very similar. However, next week it's going to be a little bit more exciting because we head to Madrid and then to Dortmund for the Spanish and then the German championship. So anyway, let's get over to the venue. Fran is in heat 5. Will is on at 12 in his qualifying. So I'll show you a little bit of the warm up and then the races and jumps. And just like that, it was time for the race. So I headed up the top so I could get a good view and I could get a good angle of Fran. I like to film all their races. 1, it's good for content, and 2, we can analyse it after. A lot of the times I just zoom in on my athletes. I'm looking at their form, how they run, so I don't always capture the best angle of the race, but it's useful for us for feedback. So here we go then. This is the heat of the 400 metres. Fran was, I think, 2nd or 3rd ranked in this heat on PBs. and on season bests, I think she was second. So she had to get out pretty hard. We were basically going to run every round like a final, so she's going to run pretty hard through 200. However, we were aware that the girl inside her may go out a little bit harder. So if that was to happen, Fran was told to tuck in to second place, which she did just that. So we went through, it was low 26s, so for Fran, not really a problem. She's gone out harder. Here, though, you can see she's kind of full of running. She's also instructed you do not overtake on a bend. So as we come into the back straight, she makes a charge. It was really funny listening to the commentary on both YouTube and in the stadium because they didn't quite expect Fran to do this. But I think myself, her, and anyone who's been watching her knows the potential that's there. So top two went through, but we wanted a good lane in the semi-final. So she raced it pretty hard. She was feeling good, open her stride, and she dropped a new PB of 56.21. That's another 0.3 off a PB. She's safely through to the semis, and yeah, she looked pretty good after. Next up was Will in his long jump qualifying. So Will's kind of warm-up overlapped with Fran's race, so as a coach, you've just got to try and do what you can do. So I was still up the top. In his warm-up, he doesn't do very much because they have such a long call-up time. So out there, he did his sprints and his strides and his pop-ups, and then here's his first run-through in warm-up, and he was moving pretty well for Will. I was quite happy with what I could see. On this one, he pushed out a little bit harder out the back. He had a little bit more speed in it, and he was bang on the board, so he was good to go. He was feeling confident. He PB'd here last year in qualifying, and this is round one. So he comes down the runway really, really well, takes a lot of speed into the board, nails it, and it's a new PB, 7 metres and 6. He just did one jump. That was enough for the final, and he's going to come back tomorrow and hopefully try and back it up and maybe even go further. 2 hours later, and we are all done. Fran absolutely smashed her heat of the 400 metres, cruising through to the semi-finals in a new PB of 56.2. And then Will, with one jump in the long jump, went out to 7.06, new PB, and he's into the final. So I'm heading home now, and we're going to be back tomorrow for day 2. It is now Sunday morning. We are back in Sheffield. It is finals day at Bucs. Fran goes in the semi-final in about an hour and a half. Hopefully she makes it into the final. It's going to be really tough. And then Will jumps at about 3 o'clock, and I'll show you a little bit behind the scenes. And it's 400 metres semi-final time. Obviously, Fran was really happy to be in this semi-final, but she didn't come here just to take part. She wants to do as well as she can in every race that she has. Obviously, we went through the same process of warming up and preparing. There was a little bit of a twist to the plot in this one in that Fran was in lane 5 and outside her was Asher in lane 6, who's one of the favourites to medal. But also, Asher used to be one of my athletes before she moved back to Kent. So the programme that Fran actually follows now was first tested on Asher. So Fran's plan was to get out really hard and commit because we know Asher's fast through 200 and she's a very, very good athlete, really good at running indoors. So for Fran, the goal was to get out really hard, follow Asher and then tuck him behind. And as you can see here, Fran's right up on Asher's shoulder, but Asher comes down this hill pretty quick and then Fran tucks him behind. At this point, it was clear this was going to be a pretty quick race. They went through in 25.6, so Fran's right on her fastest 200-metre indoors there. And she tried to stay really close to Asher. Here, though, you can see Asher's strength. Down that back stretch, she pulls away from Fran, and Fran's goal is clear now. Just keep your eyes on the back of Asher and keep running. At this point, however, the girl in third place really started to close in. Only the winner and then the two fastest non-automatic from all 4 semis would make it to the final. So Fran is running for her life. The clock stops at a new PB for Asher, 55.4. Then Fran had a nervous wait. And there it is, a new PB under 56 seconds, 55.82. So about an hour or so later, it was time for Will to begin his long jump warm-up. However, this was going to clash with Fran's 400-metre final as well because they were both scheduled. I think Fran was on at 20 to 3, Will was on at 3 o'clock. So I just supervised a little bit of both of their warm-ups. Kind of, at this point, Fran's running on tired legs, so I'm just there to kind of keep them in a good place, give them someone to talk to, make little plans, make little strategies for how they're going to approach it. So Will's doing a few of his run-throughs here, and again, he looked pretty good. He had a little bit more speed than yesterday, a little bit less control. So I concentrated on Fran for a little bit because her final was up next. The difficulty for Fran was she was given lane 2. Because she was a non-automatic qualifier, you get an inside lane. So all she could do here was just give it a best shot. She was ranked 10th going into Bucs. I think 10th on a good day going into Bucs. She's made the top 6. She's ran 2 PBs. She's just got to get herself in the race. From lane 2, it's always going to be difficult for a slightly taller athlete, but she got out pretty hard. Outside her, the girls were going really, really fast. We knew that was going to happen, so we could just try and stay as close as possible. She was a little bit worried about breaking from lane 2 with other people coming in front of her, and as you can see here, the girl inside comes through and the others come around. So you've just got to be a little bit smart, but everyone's still in the race here. So at 200, it was pretty quick. Again, Fran's gone through in just under 26 seconds. You could see she's a little bit more tired now. She's still running at a really fast pace, but compared to how she ran in a heat and a semi, there's a little bit more tension, a little bit more fatigue. At this point, she's in 6th in the final. The girls are just ahead of her, and her goal here is just see if I can get one person. If I can scalp one person, then I'm going to come 5th, and this is what she does, finishing as strong as she can down the home straight. 5th place, 56.3, great weekend. Straight from Fran's 400-metre final over to Will's long jump final. So he did all his runway checks and then it was time to get the competition started. Here is the videos of his jumps. This is round 1. He needed to get a solid marker in. It was okay. It was 685, but that wasn't going to be enough to see him into the top 8. So he needed a little bit more. Next came this. It was a 7-metre jump, and that 7-metre jump was going to put him into the top 8. We had a little bit of a nervous wait because everyone was really crowded. This was such a high standard comp. This is round 3 where he is trying to push a little bit to see if he can extend it a little bit more and be safe into that final 8, but he fouls it. It was a big old foul, but it was a foul. He did make the top 8 though, and now it was time to reset and get ready for the final 3 rounds. Will had to push it. There was no option there to kind of sit back because the standard was insane. He just had to try and get anything he could out of the competition to try and get a new PB, but it wasn't quite meant to be. After a 7.06 in qualifying, he finished in the final with a 7-metre exactly jump, so another 7-metre jump and 8th place, but really happy with the weekend. What a weekend that was. I've just made it back from Sheffield. It is now Sunday evening, and yeah, it's just been an incredible weekend. These are the reasons that I coach, just because I want to make people better than they think they could be. And Will and Fran are 2 perfect examples of that. When I started coaching them, Will and Fran were just way different characters. They weren't confident, they weren't trusting in their abilities. I think they knew they could be good and they loved the sport, but I feel like this weekend they just showed that confidence, that inner belief that they put the work in. They trust the process, they trust me, I trust them. And it just makes it so easy. I had it with Zach and Imi the week before at Nationals, and I just find with my athletes that they're in a place where they've put in all the work. We've got such a good open relationship that they know that I've invested, they've invested, and together as a team, as a unit, we can bring out good performances. And there's still so much more to come. Fran today ran 55.8. That's 3 seconds she's taken off her 400-metre PB. Indoors this year, and she's a 4-hurdler, a recent switch from heptathlon to 4 hurdles, so there's so much more to come. But also, we don't know what's to come. We've got to enjoy the moments that are happening right now. We've got to enjoy the fact that she smashed it this weekend, 5th in her first ever Bucs, and she went in ranked 12th, 13th, something like that. So you've got to enjoy that because we don't know what's coming next. What's coming next is not guaranteed. The same with Will. He jumped a PB in qualifying yesterday, first jump. Today he made a few mistakes in the final, but he had to. It was one of the highest quality, well, there's a championship record, but one of the most stacked fields I've seen in a Bucs long jump competition. I've seen a lot. And Will was in there and he had to take some risks to see if he can try and bump up a few places. And he's a decathlete, remember. He's not a long jumper, he is a decathlete who's good at long jump. So I'm excited to see what happens next. The next stop for me is to fly out to Madrid with David for his Spanish championships. And yeah, I'll just keep you guys updated. Hopefully you've enjoyed seeing the behind the scenes, my perspective and the competition this weekend and what weekend it was. So thank you for watching. Make sure you're subscribing, liking and interacting.